So good afternoon and welcome to Take Two for Safety. I am Barb Rawson, Program Manager with Kirkwood Corporate Training, here today to introduce you to our speaker, Dave Hughes, and share a few safety offerings that you cannot afford to miss. The first is the 2022 Kirkwood Safety Conference on February 22nd, 2022 at the Kirkwood Hotel. The event is for anyone involved in safety programming or interested in learning more about safety. The conference features 20 breakout sessions and many safety vendors. We have an inspiring keynote speaker, Scott Burrows, who uses vision, mindset, and grit as strategies to stand up for any challenge. Now, I do have to warn you, there may not be a dry eye in the house after you hear Scott's message. So if you have folks that are resistant to safety or really need to hear a personal safety impact story, make sure and send them to this conference. The registration fee is $189, and you can call 319-398-1022 to register. The second program is the Workplace Safety Group, offering 6 sessions virtually from 8 to 10 a.m., including topics like process safety management, ergonomics, leading through crisis, mental health and empathetic listening, communicating safety across, over, and beyond, engaged leadership, the sustainability to safety excellence, and zero error, and the value of near misses. So for more information on that, call 319-398-5623 to register. If you have questions at the end, we will have time to address them. Please put them in the chat during the presentation today if something comes up that sparks your interest. Now, for our main event, our speaker, Dave Hughes, with over 15 years of experience in the safety field, is going to talk to you about Take Two for Safety. Take it away, Dave.
Thanks, Barb. I guess seeing that rock got you pumped up, right? All right, so today we're going to talk about behavior-based safety program focused on workers' conduct and the workplace environment called Take Two. It's been it's been around, and I'll talk about that here in a little bit. Take Two for Safety is not like what a film director can say, quiet on the set and holler out, take two action. Many times a worker does not get a chance at the task without getting injured, as with the movie with multiple tasks or takes to take that. So Take Two is not what a movie theater gets to do either. So with Take Two, we get the initiative simply reminds us to pause, to evaluate our surroundings, what's our risk level, and to readjust to avoiding potential hazards. Everyone should develop a habit of thinking safety during work, especially. Think about it at home, on the way home too, and to work. We all drive to work, and we all have had our events there before. And one that you may not think about when you're on vacation, you need to think about safety then too. So I was exposed to Take Two probably in 2003. I worked at an iron foundry. Was told it was a DuPont model. The safety department provided guidance to the supervisor, and then they passed it on to the employees. There were checklists, meetings, audits, reviews. So all in all, the company was all in, but there was always resistance to doing a new program. But over the years that I was there, it became the norm to go ahead and stop and take 2 minutes to discuss the job task with everyone involved. So Take Two is take 2 minutes and let's talk about what we're going to do. So the TAKE was never defined when I first heard it, but I did a little bit of research and looked at DuPont a little bit more and came across what TAKE can stand for. For DuPont right now, it's think, ask, know, and execute. And they really got they got another program that they've really reestablished and got it going. So I'll plug DuPont, go to their website, and you can actually order some videos and some of the material for Take Two. Today, I'm going to go ahead and use talk, act, know, and equipped. Just seemed a little bit better fit for me to be able to talk this way. So the Take Two is, an effective method in investigating and preventing accidents. So we're going to talk about both those, but let's go and start with preventing accidents. So when we're assigned a job task, we need to talk with all involved. Maybe yourself, so actually talk, maybe think through the whole process. Others are involved, talk with those people. Maybe your supervisor you need to talk to, but it could be a whole entire team that you have to talk to perform that task. So you want to look for talk about what the exposed hazards are. Are there electrical shocks? And this is just a small list. Heat and cold stress, chemical exposure to the body, to yourself, any mechanical hazards that you have, any moving parts. And then, as OSHA is, our number one hazard is fall exposures. So those are just talk about what the hazards are. During that talk, you need to make sure that you have the correct people to work. Are they qualified? Are they competent? Are they subject matter experts? So my experience with factory workers, and it's not always a good one to even say, is that you do with what you have to get it done. Not always the best way to plan and execute the job task. The Take Two really I'm not going to say got rid of it 100%, but it really knocked down the idea of do with what you got. If you couldn't get the job done safely, you didn't do it until you could get that stuff. Well, once again, management and the workers got to it. It became a concept, but there were still times to do that. But the bottom line is that we need to talk through the process from start to finish. Oh, let me go back there. I put The Rock on there because we all know he's a showman. We know that he wrestles pretty good, wrestles, however you want to call it, even if you believe in wrestling or not, but he's a showman. When I saw him in the Tooth Fairy, it was like, hey, I don't know if he's qualified or competent for that. So that just kind of the reason I put the picture on there. So part of that, the next one is the A with the act. What actions will we have to take to make it and keep it safe? Or what hazards can be removed? What hazards can be left in place but isolated to prevent exposure? What actions are needed to protect the workers? Does the area need isolated or roped off? Special permits or license needed? What manuals or policies need to be referred to? Is there air monitoring required? Will we need to do ventilation? What about if the power needs to be turned off? Who's involved? What's involved? What's it going to do? And then, of course, you need specialized equipment for that task. So part of the act, I'm sure that you've heard a hierarchy of controls. The most common right now is an inverted triangle with 5 different areas. And what you do is you figure out what actions you can start at the top with the most effective down to the least effective. If you've never seen this, you'll kind of be surprised where we're going to end up at. But the best defense is to eliminate the hazard by physically removing it. You could also substitute the hazard by replacing it with one that's non-hazardous. Now, both of these are kind of tough to do if you already have a process implemented, meaning that you have to sell it. You may have to get different equipment, different processes. So it could take a little bit longer. But if you're starting a whole new process, try and eliminate as much hazards that you can. Try and get rid and substitute anything. The next one would be engineering controls. Get this right here. Engineering controls. This isolate workers from hazards. They're designed to remove the hazard source before it contacts a worker, such as guarding. You put up some guarding to keep people away from moving parts, partitions or fencing, like around a robot. If you got a piece of machinery that moves around that you don't want people in there, fence it off. Sound dampening materials. Maybe you have a air compressor in the area, or another machine that is just loud. You can put some pads around it, some other kind of dampening material just to deaden the sound. Ventilation's always important. We teach a warehouse class here, and ventilation is big to keep the air moving inside the warehouse. Just keep everybody, more healthier and keep the dirt down and the dust and any other particles that get in there. Interlocks kind of goes back to the maybe fencing. That if I open the fence up, the power that is within that area, the machines that I'm going into turn off automatically. It could be a door that you open up. It could be a panel that you open up, the power turns off. And then ergonomically, you could think about engineering controls, maybe having a lift table. If your workers are bending down and lifting up and putting stuff onto a table, maybe if you get a lift table that's at the same level as that lift table, then all they have to do is just slide it over instead of lifting it. Now, I've always heard that $1 spent can lead to savings of $4 to $5 in operation costs. And the biggest issue is that it's not $1 or $2, it's usually millions of dollars. And sometimes it's hard for a company to spend $1 million knowing that, even knowing that they're going to save 4 to 5 million, but it may take 15 years, however many years it's going to take to save that. Next one is engineering controls. This changes the way people work. They establish rules, policies. Worker rotation is a thing about administrative control. Signage, don't enter, keep people away from the hazard area. And like I say, the last one that you may not be think about is PPE, because a lot of times when we have a hazard, PPE is the first thing we think. How are we going to protect our workers? Well, if you can get rid of it, the hazard, eliminate it, put some engineering controls in, and then some administrative controls, you may never have to wear PPE. There's only a few reasons that OSHA tell you to wear PPE, like a hard hat. If you're going to have something that's fall from above, you need to wear a hard hat. It's pretty much all they say to wear it. A lot of construction workers wear hard hats just because that is the tool of the trade, which it's a great idea. But if you don't have any falling objects, maybe you don't need to wear that. Maybe gloves, the type of gloves that you're going to wear for PPE. You want to wear the right glove, but if you can eliminate the hazard to wearing the glove, then you don't have to. Now, it can be inexpensive to establish. I mean, a pair of gloves, but costly in the long term. So let's think of a hearing protection. You get the little foam hearing protections. They're at as you walk into the plant, the people grab one when they first start working. Then they go on a break and they grab another set, and then they go to lunch and they grab another set, and then they take their last break and they grab another set. So that could be 4 sets in one day. They work 5 days a week, maybe on Saturday, a little bit of overtime. So now you're pushing, 20 different, 20 sets a week, times however many employees you have, and it can get expensive real quick. So again, PPE is kind of the last resort. But a lot of times we follow that because it's the last step to protect the workers. And sometimes that hazards are not very well controlled. Sometimes we can't control the hazard. Don't even want to talk about having the word double hearing protection. That's a whole nother subject there. That can get very expensive and cumbersome to use. So another example here is a Sawzall replaces a cutting torch. This increases the safety many folds over. There's no sparks generated, eliminates permits, workers' exposure should, this is a form of substitution. So instead of using the torch, as it shows in the picture there, use a Sawzall, it's safer in the sense of not creating sparks. Now, this is where the training would come into to make sure that we know how to use that equipment. Another one would be shutting down the equipment, then locking it out. Not just turning a button off and flipping a switch. Okay, you may think it makes it safe, but the main thing is to turn the power off from the source, and that's administrative controls. Now, I always get the argument that it takes too long to lock out. Well, what's that person's life worth? Okay, so during any of the take two, you hit a stopping point, you need to pause and work through it. No matter how much pushback you get, you need to stop and work through it. So it just needs to be done. That takes us to know the hazard identified and the actions needed will drive what everyone needs to know. So we know what the hazards are, we know what actions we need to take. Now we can create a plan. Knowledge comes from training and experience, but someone can have all the book knowledge available, but no experience. Somebody can have all the experience and minimal book knowledge. It's just they learned on the job. They've been there forever and a day. But again, everybody needs to be heard that's going to be involved with the task of what the hazards they know, what they think that they can help getting hurt. So no matter what knowledge level or what experience level, people that are involved with the situation need to be heard and then that creates your plan in there. For large projects, it may take multiple meetings prior to performing the task. I know that we had plant shutdowns, and we always started in March to start planning it. It wasn't the day before. However, most situations for take two for safety would be on the spot evaluations of the situation, then you make adjustments. There are many, this is kind of where training comes into play. Are your workers trained on what needs to be trained? And are they current? I don't know why we always end up doing this, but we'd always cut our throat by running into problems with confined space entry. We'd always have that one person that couldn't go in because they weren't up to date on training. And that always became a problem. I shouldn't say always, but it sure seemed like it always did. Most of the time it was pretty good, but it seemed like there was always it would stop a situation. We have to get somebody else. So got to make sure you people are trained on there. It could be other training as simple as on the spot with gloves, as I talked about before. I'm going to use a different glove. We just talk about why we're using the glove and make sure everybody knows what they need to know about the glove. But then again, it may take a couple days or months to get that training. I can remember when we had a chemical coming into the plant, and I mean, it was a bad chemical. It was okay in small doses, but if you would get a big dose, I mean, it definitely could cause death quickly, even with a slight exposure. So we had to train everybody on the signs and symptoms, what the first aid, where it was required, what PPE was required to wear in the area, and the list went on. It actually took 2 months to do the awareness training with the multiple shifts and parts of the plan involved. So everybody had to know what the hazards were. We identified what they were, and now we need to know what we need to do to protect ourselves. So knowledge can take time and cost money, but like all steps, it's vital to ensure that everyone is on the same page. That's huge. Nothing worse than having somebody want to go a different directions right when you're right when in your middle of it. So make sure that you keep everybody on the page. So equipment. This takes us to equipment. I kind of do a play on words here because this wraps up the take two concept. Are the workers equipped with what they need to know to execute the task safely using the right equipment? So I kind of equipped with knowledge and equipment. Again, we're asking, are they knowledgeable of the task to be completed? And what are the consequences if they what are the consequences if the procedures are not followed? Like we need to, again, I kind of repeat myself here again, what are exposure hazards? What actions do we need to take to stay safe? We need to know the knowledge of the procedures, what training we received that need to be completed, and then get the right equipment. So equipment needs are determined prior to the step, like I said, but since I just mentioned using the right equipment, let's touch on some of that. This is a good picture here. A window box fan is not the same as a confined space ventilation fan. I'm sure you know what a box fan is. If you don't know what a confined space ventilation fan is, well, right there it is. A big old tube and a big fan. And then a body belt cannot be used in place of a fall harness. It's a scary one when you see that. Fall harnesses are what you need to be using for any kind of fall protection, not the body belt. And of course, the large, heavy wrenches are not hammers. See that. And a common one that really see is screwdrivers are not prying tools. Raise your hand if you're guilty about using that. It's handy. Just grab it and just go. It's always that one screwdriver that you'll never use on a screw, but you use it to pry. But it's an easy example. We all know it. Do that. So, along with the tools, you usually get an owner's manual. Or even just a little sticker. Next time you buy a little screwdriver, there's actually a sticker on there that tells you how to use it. The lawyers tell you how to use it on that. So it could be a little sticker, it could be a one-page flyer, or even a 20-page. With most common one we see for owner's manuals is 20 pages in different languages. So they provide the initial contact with operators and tool explaining the safety do's and don'ts and the proper way to use a tool. So I can tell you that you can always discover an aha moment inside these. So one example is that there may be a warning that says this: the ignition system produces electromagnetic field of low intensity. This field may interfere with some pacemakers. To reduce the risk of serious or fatal injuries, persons with pacemakers should consult their physicians and the pacemaker manufacturer before operating this tool. That just slowed you down. Somebody reads that and has a pacemaker. Job rotation there, right? You know, I can't imagine somebody walking in with this and saying, "Hey, doc, you know, can I operate this tremor?" No, but you know, they put them in there in the owner's manual. Some lawyer wanted to make sure they pushed the liability somewhere. So read those owner's manuals. Let your people read them. Use them to train on. No reason to reinvent how to operate a piece of tool when it's already written there for you. All the safety's there too. So again, my concept of take two for workplace accident prevention includes talk about the hazard, take actions required to work safe, know what you need to know, and equip everyone with the knowledge and equipment to be able to execute it. So take 2 minutes and talk it through. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about accident investigation using the take two. And now I've seen over my years many ways to investigate an accident. I've seen 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 different steps to perform investigation. You basically need to use what is best for you and your company, the one that you understand, the one that your company relates to. And the company I worked at before, Kirkwood, it was the take two, and it seemed to work by the time I left there. So make sure that it does meet your expectations. The main focus on accident investigation is to get the root cause. Got to get that root cause. So think of this scenario. You're walking through the factory, you notice a puddle of oil on the floor. You go in, you take time, you wipe up the spill, feel good that you prevented an accident from happening. Hurrah, hurrah. But the problem is the next day, you hear that somebody slipped on that oil that you just cleaned up. So what went wrong? Well, kind of easy sometimes to look back at that is, did you take 2 minutes to figure out how the oil got there in the first place? You know, this could have brought you to the root cause of the spilled oil. So let's talk a little bit about that. So suggestion here is to talk with others to determine the history of the spill, if there was any. The next step is to take action and conduct a formal incident investigation and gather facts about the hazard. Determine the origin of the oil. Was this reoccurring? What's the history of it? Talk to the people in the area. They pretty much will know what's going on with that. The process of talking with others, getting an investigation, takes us to the knowledge about the incident, when and how it occurred. Again, it gets to the root cause of the appropriate actions to take it. And then lastly, it takes equipment. Again, another play on the word equipped. This one would actually, the root cause would be a equipment failure, a faulty piece of equipment, of a leaky hose connection above was just slowly leaking, and that was the cause of the leak. So sometimes answers to problems are not so obvious. They take time and a little detective work on your part. And cleaned it up, but somebody else actually, got hurt again. So a kind of review here: talking with others, determine the history of this. I'm sorry, I went the wrong way. I went the right way. All right. Kind of a review here. Sorry about that. Got mixed up on my talk, act, know, and equip. Again, in a review here, have a talk with everyone involved with the job or the incident. Do I know the proper actions I need to do? Can I go ahead and get rid of the hazard? Can I substitute it? Can I isolate it? Is there administrative controls I can take? And if there's PPE required, what do I need? And then the hazard identification actions, again, they all drive to knowing. You get those first two, you get to know what you need to know about the job task. And then equip your people with the knowledge and equipment that they need to know. So taking 2 minutes to think through your job before you start, so you can make sure that you work as safe as possible. I think the snow's coming this weekend, so take a couple minutes, go outside now. And I did it yesterday, move the hunks of snow that I know that I'm going to have to run the snow blower over this weekend, so they're not spitting out the top of the snow blower and making all kinds of noise. So I already took my 2 minutes for the snow. Wanted to remind, and Barb already mentioned it, is our safety conference on 02/22/2022. And that's kind of drove this idea of Take Two, kind of our theme for it. We have some presenters going to talk about Take Two in their concept of what they're thinking about. Taking two for ergonomics, taking two for medical. And it's going to be at the Kirkwood Event Center, the hotel where we've been holding it for the last 8 years. And this is the number you can call to register, or you can go online and register. So, all right, Barb, any questions I need to know about?
All right, thanks, Dave. Really good information. So we had one question come in. People were wondering if they wanted to learn more, about some of the concepts you talked about today. Where can they find some additional resources on the Take Two? And then also, you brought up some interesting comments about the PPE. Where can they go to find out what PPE is required?
Well, I'm going to go ahead and since I learned it from DuPont, I would encourage you to just go to the DuPont website and look at Take Two. I don't have anything established, no handouts or anything about that. OSHA, they have their own accident investigation series. We do have a class that talks about it. Some of the Take Two's in there, but most of it, they talk about the 5 whys. But if you're really interested in the Take Two concept, get with DuPont, go to the website and you get the information. As for PPE, it'll tell us in the owner's manual what PPE to wear. If it's a chemical, it'll tell us on the safety data sheets. Get with the vendor, it'll help you out with PPE. I know that we all kind of, and guilty of it too, is go to the websites and find a piece of equipment that's real cheap and just go ahead and buy it and then try and learn it ourselves. Sometimes if you get a vendor, he or she can help you with that piece of equipment and make sure that you're training on it right. And right there eliminates any training that you'll need to do. You just bring the vendor in to do the training and then you do the reoccurring.
Excellent, thank you. All right, just a final reminder, please sign up for that Kirkwood Safety and Health Conference. Will be worth your while to go and spend some time and hear the message.
Can I talk about the food? Talk about the food?
Yes.
We're gonna do brisket and pulled pork in February. Now you can't beat that. Okay. And it is actually sweet potato day. So there's going to be something with sweet potato. There's one thing that we're not going to probably do is the margarita day, but maybe we'll do something there at 5 o'clock.
Excellent. I also had a question too, Dave, wanting to know if you will share your handouts with those who attended today.
Sure. I mean, we can give you the PowerPoint with the notes on it. Yeah.
Yep. Perfect. So we will go ahead and we'll send out the notes with the PowerPoint, and then we will also send out a recording to all of you who attended today, because we are all about safety, and the important thing is spreading the message and keeping our employees safe. All right, that is it for today. So thank you all for joining us, and we appreciate your time today. And thank you, Dave.
Thank you, everyone.